now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello, and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with John, Kellen, and TJ. And I feel like we always talk about movies where at least one of us, usually me, likes it. I don't think we've been overly critical, all of us together, yet. I know John's been critical of some movies, Kellen's been critical of some movies, TJ and I not so much. But um, I thought it would be fun if we did a movie where I genuinely think everybody's going to hate it. We talked about the bucket that we got away from. In that bucket, when we made that list, I'm like, we should put some movies we don't want to watch in there. So I know for sure one of the shitty movies I put in there was Shark Side of the Moon. So I look forward to the day we get to that one. But I thought this movie's new. Everyone should hate it. Let's talk about it. It'll be fun. So a lot of our childhood cartoon characters are slowly becoming public domain. Peter Pan, Pinocchio, Winnie the Pooh, and now the one and only Steamboat Willie himself, Mickey Mouse. The Winnie the Pooh movies were decent. I think John is the only one who's maybe seen them so far. Could have been a lot worse. I've seen 2 Cinderella movies, terrible. But this movie that we're going to talk about today is the first one with Steamboat Willie. So the first movie to come out after Mickey Mouse Steamboat Willie has become public domain is called Mickey's Mousetrap or The Mousetrap, whatever you want to call it. It's like I said, it's the first one. There's another one coming down the hatch that has the guy who plays Art the Clown as Steamboat Willie or Mickey Mouse. That one will probably be pretty decent. But this one, not so much. And when I see things like this, I always think of the old adage: just because we can doesn't mean we should. And I'm getting ahead of myself. But as always, there will be spoilers in this episode if you decide to watch this abomination yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in retrospect, I got to think that the Disney Corporation might would have renamed Steamboat Willie if they had have known what it was going to become. Because now it kind of sounds like a Navy porn or something. It's like it's kind of a weird title to be the initial start of this legacy of this character that's created an empire now. But I guess that's neither here nor there. This is perfect timing to be talking about a Disney thing because my wife and I are actually in the middle of planning for our 10th anniversary a Disney vacation. So she's wanting to get all you know, the cheap t-shirts and stuff so we don't have to buy any of the stuff at the thing for like $100. So we're very much in the middle of trying to figure all that stuff out. I will say, uh, as far as slasher movies go, there is a wide spectrum on slasher movies. I think they're probably the most easy to make in terms of accessibility. You don't really need names. You just need a bunch of young people in a situation and a killer, right? And if you got some IP or something, all the better. Something that's got built-in uh, eyeballs to want to see, well, how would they do that? Right? That's literally what all these movies are going to be made off of. Well, what would Mickey Mouse as a slasher character be? Well, we've seen Winnie the Pooh now. I think Bambi's got a movie coming out. We know somebody's making a Piglet movie right now. We're just running down the line. So I will say, in the almost 2-year history of our podcast, I've never taken any notes on a show that we actually recorded. I took copious notes for one interview that never happened, and we all know who that is.
Looking at you, Bo. Looking at you.
So I'm just going to start by reading somewhere about a third of the way through this movie. I started taking notes on my phone. So I'm just going to read them and then kind of go from there. So the front door is glass. Okay. At least they thought of this 52 minutes into the movie, was literally the first thing I thought of. You know who the killer is instantly. So I don't know. There's a lot of intrigue there. Are they trying to say the demonic spirit of a Mickey Mouse from an old film print of Steamboat Willie somehow possesses this manager of an arcade, former hockey player, and makes him able to phase in and out of reality magically? The script is atrocious and seemingly makes fun of its own badness by alerting us to the terrible cliches like a bad 90s slasher film. So fucking light kills the cartoon demon mouse? Or makes him disappear? Teleportation is still very much on the table, is an actual line uttered by a character in this film. Only sometimes the flashing light doesn't work at all, or very poorly. Maybe it weakens him a little. Who knows? This is very clearly a Canadian production. Why else would they all be this into hockey? They're also very much not even trying to hide their Canadian accents. This doesn't actually seem like a group of friends who know or like each other very well at all. So all they had to do is challenge this fucker to a 5 minute game of hide and seek. Strobe lights piss me off too. That's why I will never watch In the Earth again, as we've talked about. What sound are they using for beating up Mickey? Sounds like a dying dinosaur. Okay, so he just disappears at will now. The cops pretty much sum it up nicely. What a piece of shit movie this is. The actual line of dialogue. So you expect us to believe that the killer teleports and you defeated him with a strobing flashlight? LOL on the ending. I never got to ask her out, and he just cut her head off. Wow. Just wow. That was also a line of dialogue.
You cuss more when you take notes. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Well, this movie warranted it. You know you got a high-class production when Shutterstock is listed in the credits. Oh, great. Goth Girl is going to join Mickey now in a public domain Mickeyverse, a la Danielle Harris and Michael Myers in the Quentin Tarantino version of Halloween 5 that became Natural Born Killers. Okay. That was my spur of the moment as I was watching it notes. This movie's shit. We know it's shit. It's probably made to be shit. I mean, I can't imagine that it's anything else really. I mean, it's an IP grab first to the to the bank to try and put it out. We all know what this is. Um, that being said, I've seen worse. I've seen some real stinker slashers from even some from the 80s. Not everything in the 80s was great. Uh, there's a lot of really bad 2000 slashers that were in the kind of made straight for DVD days. But if this is kind of like high end of what to expect, I'm not looking forward to a lot of these kind of cash grabs. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much what I got. What do you think, Kellen?
Yeah, so
Wow,
this movie
all decked out in Disney attire. Was not expecting that.
yeah, I love Disney. I love everything Disney. Well, apparently except for one thing, because this is not Disney. Um I I did say before, and it was something that I did notice, and it's the only shining light of this movie. That place looked fun as hell. Like 10-year-old Kellen would have been hype to have gone to that place. Um, and I don't know why. I don't know why anytime you're in a dark area, it's just the go-to to make things foggy. Like watching the X-Files, if it's nighttime, there's fog all the time forever. When they go to have sex in the bounce house, the runaround room, whatever you want to call it, it's foggy for no reason. Um, that's the end of the good in this movie. This movie is absolute trash from start to finish. Everything you said is true. The dialogue is hot garbage. It looked like it was generated by an AI that was prompted by a 5-year-old that had missed his last dose of Ritalin. The acting is barely passable as acting. All of the characters in this movie are over the top caricatures of stereotypes. The jock is an over the top dick version of a jock. The nerd guy it's like they tried to make him like the she's all that, like, oh, if he took his glasses off and moved his hair back, he would be handsome, but no, he's a nerdy guy with his glasses. He was just like such a wimp. The goth girl was over the top. You've just been involved in a murder of half of your friends, violently, by the way, and you're going to be a dick to the cops that are trying to figure out what's going on. You're going to sit and face the wall and brood like, it's not a phase, mom. What the fuck was that? The good girl was even annoying to the point to where I wanted her to die. The only shocking part was that they cut her head off, which is kind of a disconnect from typical horror films, because usually the final girl is the final girl. He literally cuts her head off and then just off into the ether, gone forever, which makes no sense. Why would you kill the final girl and just be like, oh, I'm out, and then be gone? Every part of this movie progressed on the shit that was before it in awfulness. Like, there was no redeeming qualities in the entire film. The only good thing was that it was only an hour and 20 minutes. Like, if it had been 1 minute sooner, I probably would have slit my own wrists. That's how bad this movie is. So, with that being said, I have two things that I've written down, so please bear with me. The first one: congrats to the makers of The Mousetrap for showing me the errors of my way. I let my hubris and arrogance get the best of me. With that being said, I will be amending my rating for Abigail from a 0 to a 1, because once you truly see a zero film,
yes,
Abigail was not the
vindication.
This movie, I'm going to go ahead and spoil my ratings, is a 0. This is the hottest of garbage. It's not even so bad where you're like, oh, you've got to see it. Like, John, what was it Things, whatever that movie was.
Don't even give him the credit of the name.
I'm just saying, like,
Things.
That's one of those ones that you watch just so you can say you watched it. This doesn't even deserve that. This doesn't deserve the time and energy it takes to create a DVD, let alone a Blu-ray. So, God, if this ever gets a release, they have wasted time and money of everybody involved. This should be only on streaming and only pirated on the worst sites, where it looks like an old 80s VHS that somebody pissed in the cartridge before putting it into the VHS player. So you don't even really have to watch the movie because it keeps cutting out. That's the only way that this would have been good.
I did that one time.
What movie?
The second tape of Titanic.
Okay.
Oh my God. You sank it. And here's the thing: the mask isn't creepy. The mask is stupid. The guy being kind of just average looking. They had the blueprint there. If you've ever played Bendy and the Ink Machine, that game is a fantastic horror game, and it's kind of loosely based on the idea of a Mickey Mouse type character becoming evil. And that game is fantastic. And if they would have leaned in more of that direction, where maybe it's some studio people that are trapped in the studio after night, and they realize that their creations have come to life and is trying to murder them, but him putting on a mask and all of a sudden he can teleport, and blinking lights are his. The only thing worse than blinking lights being a weakness is a double-decker bologna sandwich from Trolls 2. That's the only thing I can think of that is a worse weakness for a villain. So before I pass it on, I wrote a little piece here. So I'll get into character. Aha! I'd like to first start by saying, what the actual fuck was that? I know we at Walt Disney Studios have put on some stinkers, looking at you, John Carter, the Lone Ranger, and the Country Bear, to name a few, but never have we actively taken a giant shit in consumers' eyes and tried to pass it off as cinema in the way The Mousetrap does. This movie sucks harder than Minnie Mouse after 3 margaritas. I would rather film a 2 girls, 1 cup type film with Goofy and Pluto while we alternate gargling each other's feces while Donald Duck fillets Daisy while yelling racial slurs into her gaping wet duck vagina than to ever have to watch this disaster of an attempted money grab again.
Oddly
Honestly,
specific.
this movie is so bad, I willed my drawn arm off the page so I could grab an artist's pencil and gouge my own eyes out. Anyway, fuck all of Canada for allowing this trash to make it across the border. Sincerely, fuck you. Yes, anytime Minnie wants to go down on the old Walt Dixney, she has to hit me with that hilk tua and spit on that thing.
Fuck.
Wow.
Good luck following that one, John.
That's the end of the show. There's no following that, right? Yeah, this the minute this started and they did the opening credits that were like Star Wars, I literally was like, oh, just go eat shit. Go eat a polished shit. You know? Like I don't even care if you're trying to be funny or ironic. Go
And
eat
it went
shit.
on forever.
Yeah. And then so then you get the emo girl in the jail cell, and then the guy who's the cop. It's like, did he have to take off his like break at Applebee's or something to go act in that movie? The guy was fucking terrible. And then like the boss of the Chuck E. Cheese, he's got, I guess it's a 16 millimeter projector in his office. Like, what? Where did they pull that idea out of their ass? Like
And a
that's
shrine to just Steamboat Willie for some reason.
yeah, and like why did he become Steamboat Willie? Like I didn't understand that. This is this is so bad. I mean, Winnie and the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and then Winnie and the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, those movies are like the fucking Exorcist compared to this movie. I mean, those movies are so much better. I mean, even the Mickey voice, it was like he was ripping off Ghostface, like when he talked. Yeah, Gravitas Ventures. I'm just gonna, I just hope you all never make movies again. You're terrible. May you burn in hell. I said it. May you burn in hell. And to quote Billy Madison, may God have mercy on your soul. Like, holy shit. This is like the worst cash grab I've ever seen. And I know that I gave a zero. I think I gave a zero to The Strangers. I'm gonna take that. Redaction. That's gonna be like a 1 or a 1.5 because this movie is worse than anything I've seen in years. I don't know if it's the worst movie I've ever seen, but the whole thing just made me so mad when I watched it. All I thought was, if I ever meet these filmmakers, I'm going to do my fucking best to talk them out of ever making movies again because they don't need to.
And you said the crawl at the beginning. How do you start the crawl saying how much you love Disney and are fawn over Disney, and then you're going to take such a giant shit on on film?
And it's not like they made money.
Exactly.
There's no way they made money off of it. So it's just so they could say first.
Yeah. So I hated it. I mean, I don't even like calling this a movie, to be honest with you. It's just cash grab bullshit. 100%.
Lifetime makes better movies than this.
Yep.
And it was
everybody.
so clear that they did it so quickly and for so cheap because they just like somebody had access to an arcade at night and they said, "Great, we can film after hours at this arcade. Let's do it in a week." And
they announced it the day that it hit the copyright claim was gone. Once that they announced it the day that it became public domain.
Right.
Yeah, they already knew they were going to do it. So clearly there's not a lot more to jump on after that. The whole movie is a complaint for me, but how the hell did he get the powers to teleport and shit or whatever he was doing? Like, that's the part, like, okay, it didn't make sense because he worked in an arcade and his office had a tiny theater in it with only one movie and a mask from that movie. No one is obsessed with that movie to that degree. Also, how do you have your office decorated that way? And you can just go back there and just hang out and put on your Mickey Mouse mask and the gloves and jerk off. Like, it was so odd from the jump. And all they had to have done was take a Goosebumps haunted mask approach to a degree. You would still have to kind of explain why is Mickey's mask haunted, because it makes absolutely no sense. None of it makes any sense. Kellen is right. The arcade looks fun. I would like to go there. Looking at you, Dave and Buster's. But I can't rationalize a movie. Like I've always said, if I can make a movie, I would love to make a movie. But if it's going to be something like this, if it's going to turn out remotely close to this, I'd rather not. Because I know they say any publicity is good publicity, but I wouldn't want this on my resume ever. Like, oh yeah, I have an IMDb page. Okay, cool. And then you scroll down and you get to this, like, what was that again? And then you watch the video, trailer, and you're like, I'm not going to hire this guy. Like, it makes no sense. And Gravitas, whatever, that's $1. When you hear us reference Dollar Tree movies, those are the movies that are at the Dollar Tree. Meth Gator, uncorked, and there's one more I can't think of. Those are the ones that go straight to that bin. This is going to go straight to that bin. So the only reason they made this movie is to be first. When you go to Instagram or YouTube and you see videos, you always see somebody, I guess it's still a thing. I'm 40, I don't fucking know, but people say first, like you just gotta be the first one there. I wouldn't want to have been the first one here. If you knew you were going to go this route, you knew this was going to become public domain, you had an idea, take a little bit more time and straighten some things out before you make it. Whatever budget they had, they did okay with that part, right? Like, aside from the dialogue, acting, and general story, everything else, it looked good. It was a good looking movie for the most part. It's probably shot on an iPhone. It didn't look terrible. So you had that opportunity. Okay, I'm going to be first and I'm going to be the best. Instead, you were first, you're last, and then the Terrifier guys movie that's coming out later this year or next year, that's going to be the best one, I would imagine. I just can't understand it. Part of the other reason I wanted to rewatch this and do an episode on it is because John didn't finish it the first time. He didn't finish it, and I wanted that motherfucker to finish it because I finished it. So I'm like, we're going to do this episode. It may not get a lot of views. It may get a ton, but I haven't seen anybody else talk about this movie yet. And they made it to be talked about. They wanted to be talked about. They were successful in that, but that is the only thing they were successful in, is getting people to talk about it, but we're just shitting on it. So I don't know if they're going to consider that a win or not. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they're working on a Peter Pan or Pinocchio movie too, but there's nothing good to be said about this film. There truly isn't. And I am the most optimistic mofo on this panel. And if anybody was going to say something nice, it was me. The only person that said something nice was Kellen. Shocker. And let's not forget, and we will make that into a reel, where you said you are redacting your Abigail Zero score, which was ludicrous, to a 1. Just so I wouldn't come murder you like I told you I would on the oddity episode.
I still stand by that movie's trash.
You're trash.
But this movie is, if you took that trash and then set it on fire and then tried to put the fire out with more fire.
I thought today, I was like, my favorite comedy show is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I could answer you any question about Always Sunny in Philadelphia. At one point, details Mac, I'm going to stop you right there. Your breath smells like an old lady fart passing through an onion. That's what this movie was. That's what it's the equivalent to. It's the existential equivalent of Pink Eye. It is awful, 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 awful. We got any last words before we give our rankings? I bet I've already made the video of what our score is going to be.
Is it possible to get some damages returned to me for wasting an hour and 20 minutes of my life?
We can write Gravitas. They'll send you a copy of the DVD signed.
No, they'll send you the sequel that they set up.
No.
Mickey's Mouse Crap. My logo.
So I would bet.
Why didn't you change it to crap? Why didn't you change trap to crap?
I didn't want them to think that there was another film that just happened to be Mickey's Mouse Crap that was bad. I wanted them to know what was the actual Mouse Crap.
Let's make one. Let's make one, and then we'll submit it to FrankenCon.
We should. Mickey's Mouse Crap.
You got the
outfit.
It'll be a dirty truck stop bathroom, and it'll be a guy in a Mickey Mouse costume taking a shit.
So, also, like I've said like 3 times this episode, I'm the positive one. I'm the one who loves everything. I would watch Skinamarink every day.
Oh, wow.
For a month before I would watch this movie again. And if you know my history with that movie, you know what I'm saying there. So let's get around to our rankings. Then this was a short one because it was just so shitty. But let's get our rankings. I think we can assume everybody's rankings, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm going to surprise you a little bit. So the first time I watched it, 0.
You watched this more than once?
I watched it twice because I study. First time I watched it, 0. After I watched it that second time, without any distractions, I kept it at 0. So I give it a 0. Tej?
No, I mean it's clearly a 0. I've seen very few films this bad.
It's so bad.
It's very bad.
John?
0. Nothing worthwhile on it.
Kellen gave it a 5. That's gonna.
No, I already gave my rating on the front end when I redacted my Abigail. This is absolutely a 0, and if I could give it a negative number without being difficult, I would. But we'll stay with 0.
If you listen to this episode and you made it this far, find a positive review on this movie that's not someone connected to anyone in the film, and we'll send you a little prize pack. Because I looked for some and I couldn't find it. Like, well, it's a movie. That's like the best thing anybody said about it. So, all right, Mickey's Mousetrap, 0. Our first unanimous 0. I kind of knew that's where it was going to go. I'm fine with it. It's fun to do these episodes.
Welcome to the Hall of
so
Shame,
bad.
you fat piece of garbage.
Are you talking to me or Mickey? Harsh barley, bro.
Yeah. Why did they choose the fat guy to be Mickey? Mickey's not a fat guy.
He was the older guy too, though, right?
Yeah.
He probably paid the most money to be in.
He probably owned the arcade for real.
He was also most likely to wear Disney shirts and own Mickey gloves and a hat. So that's
He
why
just
they
happened to
chose him.
have it at his house already. He was like, "Hey, I can save us money in the budget."
Right.
I was kind of looking at you there when you had the things.
Hey,
had
you don't worry
gloves
about
on
that.
and the hat.
You don't worry about that.
All right, that's going to be it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Join the Horror Sanctum group on Facebook. If you have Amazon Music, there's a playlist there. I thought about if I could find the just the audio of Steamboat Willie whistling, whatever that he whistles in that short film, putting this on our playlist. So it might be there if it's on Amazon Music. So go do that. All right. Signing off. I'm Jay with John, Kellen, and TJ. And until next time,
Keep it spooky. And don't watch this movie.
no, fucking watch it because we had to watch it. And also, I lied. I only watched it once.
Yeah, don't watch this movie. No.
This
I
was
couldn't.
so bad.
I honestly couldn't.
Yeah, it's awful.
I'm usually pretty good about it. Like if it's bad, I will watch it again. But like after watching that one, I'm like, I don't have to go back. I don't have
There's
to go
no
back.
redeeming qualities.
Like seriously, things at least made me laugh a couple of times at how bad it was. Like at no point was this to the point like Trolls 2 where it was so bad it was good. It never
Here's
got
the
beyond
thing.
just getting worse.
Here's the thing with Things. Things is terrible. John yells at you when you give it any credit. The only credit it deserves is when you see a movie like this one that came out this year, that they had money, they had the technology, and it was worse than Things. Because he did everything by himself in his apartment. You know, that's the only redeeming quality of that.
Mhm.
Awful.
they at least went outside the house to an arcade.
Things
And they
Things are
got
Mickey's
better.
Mousetrap.
They got better technology now.
Again,
Right.
my thing with the movie Things is just that it's so incredibly bad. Like the last 15 minutes are so awful. You almost have to laugh at the fact that somebody would have thought that this wasn't bad. Like, you know, the guy when he put it together was like, "All right, I did it. I finished my movie." But when you watch it and the audio is so far off that it doesn't even match their mouths anymore. It looks like somebody overdubbed a Chinese movie with Japanese and then tried to get a Russian guy to translate it. It was so
This no
far
good.
off. And then the dialogue is so trash that at one point I literally was laughing out loud. I was like, this is the worst piece of shit I've ever seen.
We could have had the
I
director
never got
on, but
that
somebody
joy.
dropped the ball because they didn't respond to the guy in 5 minutes.
What happened?
Oh yeah, the Things guy. Yeah, fuck him.
John reached out to
Yeah.
him, and then he was like, "Yeah, I'd come on the show." And then John probably went to bed and woke up the next day, and the guy got pissed and said, "Forget it," or whatever.
He said something like, if you don't take this seriously, that's fine. Have a good day. And I was like,
It's like, motherfucker, you make
Yeah.
things.
I thought he
Right.
wanted to talk
Hey.
about anything but Things too, though.
Well, then we wouldn't have anything to talk about because all those
Right.
other movies
Yeah.
are shit too. So, all right.
reaching out to filmmakers is just like a 50-50 thing.
It's kind of like
yeah,
reaching into a bag of rattlesnakes and cotton candy, and you don't know what you're going to pull out.
Right.
Yeah.